back in. I've done this deliberately. Yeah? When I started my career many years ago as a school teacher, there were certain fundamentals that you had to understand. One is height gives you positional power. Okay? So that's why when you say to folks, come in and sit on the floor, or as long as you're a little bit above them, there's the psychology of looking down that gives you positional power. That's where, for those of you that went to the Talk Fest last week, where the 10 Whiz Kids presented their research ideas, etc., that's where Tony Oakley's got it wrong. Like, how in the hell will you control 5-year-olds when they're all standing up and you've got to be above them, they've got to sit on the mats, right? Now, the reason I'm not up there is because you're all up here, so I've gone to the back of the room, and this is where we are. The beauty of today is this, because on the way down, I went like this to two of our female staff. Probably not the smartest thing I've ever done. And I said, "What's this?" And they said, "That's your age." I got to tell you, at my age, that's the nicest thing anyone said to me for a long time. And so that was a great introduction to it. The other introduction to it is the bloody irony of this. Like, this is the most ironic thing. Who in their wildest dreams would have thought that one of the great troglodytes of this university, who's finally got himself up to 21 friends on Facebook after a lot of trying, would stand up and launch an I2 strategy? It's unbelievable. But come in close. Look, come in. Just take it. Everyone take a step forward. Come in real close. I'll tell you something that'll scare you to death. I'm in charge of the premier IT committee in this institution. Now, half of you didn't know that, did you? You didn't know it, did you? But I'm the chairman of Impact. It's totally unbelievable. Unbelievable. And, but here's the beauty of it. IT is for all. This is the beauty of it. There's a place for everyone in IT, and IT can serve everyone. And it's interesting, we were waiting. Hello, Bruce. Good to see you here. Well, IT is moving from you, Bruce. So we were waiting for David Rome. He's back, in case you haven't seen him. Right? It's not a hologram wandering the campus, it's actually David. And in many ways, he was the godfather of IT, so it would be fitting that he would be here today. He sent the junior godfather along, Damien Israel, who is, in essence, among other fancy things, the director of IT. Damien is the head of I in IT understanding, but not by much, let me tell you, not by much. Okay? However, it's fitting that they're here. But for me to be here, it's outstanding. I'll tell you why. Because they've got it right. They have got it right. And this is about, as you're about to hear, the IT folks, ITS, driven by Kathy and Daniel, but they're all in it together, making a statement, grabbing the bull by the horns to say the university's transforming, we're transforming, and this is where we will be in the sun and where we will be servicing the university and taking it along the path of development. For an organisation, a subset of a bigger organisation, but for an organisation to take this step, to develop a strategy integrated into the larger university strategy, and to put it publicly out there for discussion, consultation, development, and have people see, well, this is what we stand for, this is what we're going to put our marker in the ground, come along for the journey with us, because at the end of the day, this is not about us, this is about you, because we're here to provide you with what will take this organisation forward. The other beauty of this is that it's not about learning development, it's not about pedagogy, it's not about MOOCs, or mooms, or mums, or whatever the next big thing will be. They are important, make no mistake. But when you talk about, as I've come to understand, the digital university, digits are everywhere. Right? Digits are everywhere. And this is about the university. So when an academic, and I haven't had this conversation with Damien yet, told me yesterday in great frustration that it took longer to book an air ticket to Melbourne and return online than it did to actually fly down there, right? Then we need to talk about it, because when you talk about taking the university forward, it is all these things that take the university forward. And so this is about our strategy for the university. And I compliment ITS, their leaders and their staff, and I formally pass over to one of the budding godfathers. Right, there's the big godfather, David Rome. The next one down, Damien, but one of the budding godfathers, Saffioti.
Okay. So thanks everyone for coming. We really appreciate you coming out here today. This is a great thing. When we actually put this out, we were a little unsure what numbers we get here, but we actually had a large amount of the population express interest. I'm not sure if it's because of savvy marketing or free food, but we're ecstatic. Before I delve into the details, I just want to acknowledge that we are in the library, and I want to thank the library staff for giving us this wonderful space to use in the middle of campus. I'm sure we'll be back. I'm not sure where you are, Margie, but we'll come back if you have us. Okay, so 6.2. When we sent out that email a few weeks ago and put that campaign around it, a lot of people said, Laurie Chisholm, what did you say?
What is this all about?
What is all this all about? That's right. And it turns out that lots of people said exactly the same thing. Monique Harper-Richardson, where are you? Did you say that? She did. So lots of people said this, reluctantly. Okay, you didn't, Lynn? Okay, good. All right, so a lot of people said, what is 6.2? Perhaps it's a new naming convention for buildings at University of Wollongong. But the reality of it all is it's from the university strategy. It is 6.2, item 6.2 in University Strategic Plan, which really talks about how to build a capacity around digital content and digital services for our business, teaching, research, and of course all the support functions of the institution. And that's really the crutches of this. And we felt, we wanted to share some of our insight and get some insight from you as to what this all meant. Now, when we talk about it in ITS, we think of this idea as being a real engine for the university. You can't have a contemporary institution without a great technology platform and services. And we'll come back to that in a moment. We think of it as being a great agent of change. One of the things about technology is it forces you to constantly reinvent yourself. It keeps you on your toes. And we also see it as being one of the criteria, one of the elements allowing us to be successful. If we get our technology right, we can do amazing things. We believe that fundamentally in ITS. So why? Why are we having this conversation? It's interesting for me because I grew up with computing, just like many of you here had. And it's interesting watching how the industry has transformed in such a narrow period of time. When you take a look at it, and these are interesting photographs, okay, who would have thought 10 years ago that, kids would rock up to lectures with their computers, their laptops, and be using them excessively in the lectures to produce content, to interact with their peers, and perhaps perform assessment. Who would have thought that 10 years ago, in our pockets, we would have effectively great computers that allow us to access a wealth of services? If you take a look at the sales of mobile devices, they're phenomenal. The same with tablets. So we need to pay attention to what's going on in this sector. Take a look at content. Who would have imagined 10 or 15 years ago that institutions would be so readily happy to give away their content? If you take a look at the industry now, what we find is organizations are giving away their stuff. Take a look at iTunes U, app stores with different platforms. There is a bit of a business model there. It makes us ask some questions. Should we be in this space or should we not? And for us, we think it comes back to where we want to be as an institution and what our value sets are. And if you take a look at institutions like Stanford, Stanford is a great place, as we all know, but they've gone down the MOOC path in essence, in some aspects, and they've produced some wonderful stuff with an artificial intelligence course where they had like 50,000 kids across the world be involved in it. Is that something that we want to be? We don't have the answer. That's something you can help us with. Then you take a look at social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Now, I'm not a big fan of that stuff, but I will tell you for free, lots of other people are. And it's expected, okay? And it's expected that, like John, okay, that we use it. It is a great collaborative way to get insight and interact with your peers. Now, as I said, I don't get it, but there is some value there. And when you take a look at research, research has become very infrastructure intensive. You can't be a geneticist today without a gene sequencer. If you're in chemistry, you need a spectrometer. And all these things are expensive. And what's happened over the course of the last decade is they've moved more and more into the digital space. They're now online and they're accessible. And this presents us with some challenges. That big challenge that comes out of it is data. The amount of data that's pouring out of information systems and research systems is phenomenal. And we have to leverage it. This makes us ask some serious questions. Where do we want to be in this space? And the reason we need to address it is because it helps us make decisions quickly, effectively, and hopefully mitigates risk. From a technology perspective, the industry is being taken, shaken up, and turned on its head. There are now lots of debates about whether or not it's okay to build your own infrastructure when other people outside can do it. This is the whole debate over access versus ownership, cloud computing. And it forces us to ask some questions here. Does this allow us to focus on stuff that's more bread and butter for us? And at the same time, we're seeing the government put a lot more emphasis in technology. And NBN is by far the best example from the Commonwealth today of what technology is all about. But if you take all that stuff aside, technology, it's great. Boxes are great, software is great. It boils down to people. It boils down to how people want to use it and what they want to get out of it. And as an institution, we mustn't forget that. So, it's not just about technology. It is more. And when we think about it, we think it's about individuals, their desires, their views on life, how they want to work, how they want to create, how they want to contribute. It's about having a concrete plan. It's about the institution as well, its values, where it sees itself going. And most importantly, it's a bit of a smidgen of technology. We don't believe that technology should actually dominate the conversation. And you'll see why as time passes. So we asked a bunch of people as to what they thought. We gained insight from students and staff. And it turns out that when you ask them, very rarely do they say, oh, well, I'd like my MacBook Air to do this. The conversation can be diluted to a few key points. Access, speed, services, collaboration, fun, the experience, and most importantly, me. Okay? It's about making me productive, making me have a good experience. That may sound wrong, but that's the stark reality. If you take a look from a researcher's perspective, you more or less get the same themes, but productivity and security also bubble up because a lot of the research community takes the view that they want to protect their work And that's a fair assessment. So the point here is, talking to people, you get different definitions. And so if you're looking for a singular definition of a digital university, there is no such thing. And the reality of it all is we can use lots of words, and I stole this from Luke Shirali in ITS, so thank you, Luke. Okay, we can use lots of words to describe it. But at the end of the day, we don't have all the answers. And that's why we've opened up this process, because we need you. We need your insight to help us see where we fit, where the gaps are, what we've got wrong, what we've got right. Does that sound fair? Okay, so far so good. So let's take a step back and let's talk a bit about our proposition. What does it mean for IT? So John stood up and spoke about the war at the back. This is actually a scaled down version of the war in ITS. We've created a war on ITS, which is actually along our atrium, which documents our philosophies on various aspects of being digital. And what we've done is we've invited our staff and people from the campus community to provide insight. And so what's happened is there are lots of sticky notes providing feedback. This rocks, this sucks, no, we can do better here, etc., etc., etc. It has been a fun, exciting process for us. And we felt it was appropriate to open that up to all of you. So you can do exactly the same thing. So, hence we have a wall at the back. And on either side, there are notes and stickers. And out across the room, there are ITS staff to help guide you through the wall. Now, from our perspective, we feel our goal is to really create connections. It's to create connections with elegant and effective solutions and services. That's really what it's about. Now, I spend a lot of time working with Laurie Chisholm down here, and I would say we seldomly talk about the technology. We normally talk about how things interact. Would that be a fair assessment? We believe it is about the connections. And we've been talking a lot now for the last year about our culture and our value set. We believe our proposition to you as a broader institution is to support, advise, and enable. We see partnership being the top order bit for us. It's not about simply providing infrastructure, it's really about engaging and having that conversation and understanding you. Sometimes the news would be great, sometimes it may not be so great. When we take the university strategy and distill it, we get 4 key points that we think ITS or IT contributes to. There's obviously the digital aspect. There is supporting discovery, creativity, innovation. There's also the experience aspect. Technology is meant to be invisible. It's not meant to be dominant. And finally, there's the whole sustainability angle. Everything we do must be sustainable from a fiscal perspective, and an infrastructure perspective, and finally, a people perspective. So we've been working on this strategy in-house. And when we first wrote it, we actually thought that this was an ITS strategy. But then we had a rethink and we thought it was a much broader strategy. It represented an IT strategy for the university. And as time passed, we thought, well, this actually aligns very much to 6.2. We have to open this up and solicit feedback from you. So we've come up with 5 pillars, more or less, of this strategy. And the first is our digital ecosystem, and I'll explain what these are in a moment. The second is enabling research and innovation. The third is simplifying how we work. The fourth is connecting and engaging the community. And the last one is our building blocks. We don't see a digital university simply being tied to content or access to information. We see it cutting across every gamut of our business. Every gamut. And we've tried to create the pillars of this strategy around that idea. And for each pillar, what we've done is we've effectively specified or outlined a pledge, a commitment. And so this is the one for research. We endeavour to develop an infrastructure, capability, community, and outcomes, positioning the university as a leader in this space leveraging technology. And as a result, we've enumerated what we think is a good opening position in that space. So we've outlined key strategic priorities. These revolve around notions such as accessibility, or improving high-performance computing resources, or making experiences consistent across the enterprise. Now the thing is, we don't have all the answers. And so we urge you over the course of the next week or two to give us as much feedback as you can. We think there are some great core themes that emerge. The whole digital content and experience is going to be very, very important to us. And that is a values and where we see ourselves going discussion. Experimentation and risk. Research is predicated upon the idea of following your nose, following your curiosity. And so that means for us that we have to somehow find a sensible, a pragmatic way to allow experimentation in our technology environments a little more. It means we have to accept perhaps a bit more risk. Information and processes. The way we manage information is important. We've got tons of it. Are we getting the best value out of it? Don't know. It's something we need to work on. And finally, it's the people side. The way we engage, the way we help, the way we care for one another is paramount. People will base their experience in IT or with technology not necessarily by looking at a box, but how they talk or how they engage with someone, how they interact. So this is what we know. We know we need to listen. We need to solicit ideas and insight from the campus community, students, faculty, staff, whoever may happen to be. We know at the same time we all need to be visionary. We need to look to the future and try to identify the major themes that are emerging in this space and where they may align with our institution. But at the same time, we've got to be realistic. It's all great to say we're going to do X, but we have to work within constraints. And there are many of them. We need to ensure that we acknowledge them. We need to ensure that we are all aligned to one another. Organizations in this organization are developing business plans. We all need to make sure that we are in the same page and there is visibility. If this is going to work, there needs to be an understanding across the entire shop. And finally, we need to talk. We need to engage. And so this is how we see the development of this point 6.2 emerging over time. So what do we need from you? Well, this is effectively a call to action. Okay? And first and foremost, from you, we want your ideas. Give us your ideas. Your best, your worst, your wackiest. We want your ideas. And what we will do is we'll socialize them. We'll work with you. We'll try to understand them a little more and try to put them in context with things in the business. And our commitment is to put together a plan, a strategy with a work plan over a period of time that best represents the tone, the feeling, and where this institution is heading, given the constraints that we may happen to have. So, as I said, we have this awesome wall at the back of this room. We want your feedback. In the room today, there are people wearing these 6.2 shirts. Have a chat with them. Tell them what you think. Tell them what you like. Tell them what you don't like. Tell them what you'd like to see. Stick up on the wall. Send us an email, 6.2@uow.edu.au, or put it in the box. There are boxes on either side of the room. We really want your feedback because we feel that this is a campus-wide activity. We're ready to go in ITS. We're itching to move on this stuff. We've got lots of great ideas. So we're ready for the challenge. And at the same time, my last remark is, let's see what we can do together for the future. So that's really the core message I wanted to portray today. And I'm I'm not sure if I did it well enough, but I assume it's okay. So thank you.
As I sidled through the crowd then, as you were wrapping up, Daniel, someone said, very good. So that's what I heard. So there it is, friends, at the ITS call to action, your opportunity to dive right into the debate about the digital university. What does it all mean? How does it all fit together? Where should it head? Where will we bite? What will we chew? And what will we look like in 5, 10, 15 years' time? For those of you that are followers of this, there's a gentleman by the name of Tudge. His first name escapes me, probably mental block. Alan, thank you. And he is a member of Parliament, a Liberal member for the seat of Deakin, I believe. And he has been tasked by the Leader of the Opposition with coming up with a think piece that may well be the basis of a platform for where universities might head digitally. He focused in particular on the pedagogy and the academic side of it, in my view. That was the thrust of his argument, which appeared in the Financial Review. And he approached it from the point of view of an economic rationalist model. Doesn't surprise you. I was given the task of the Vice-Chancellor, one of the Vice-Chancellor's great mistakes thus far in his career here, of having a conversation with Alan Tudge. And if you promise not to tell anyone, promise, Michael, you promise, because you've got contacts back there. Right? My opening line to him was, have you got kids? Well, that was a showstopper, but we won't go into that. And finally, when I got there, I said, okay, that's good. So when they get to university in 10 years' time, what's the totality that you want them to experience? How do you want the university to talk to them? How do you think the university will talk to them, to engage them, to even think about that university? Let's start there. When they come to the university, how do you want them to be processed through it all? How do you want them to be educated? You want them to go to lectures and a hologram just goes in front of them and presents the lecture, and then it disappears and they get up and walk to a real subway where they can touch the footlong. Is David Rome here yet? Will I tell the story, David, how you took me to Subway and said if we buy a footlong and cut it in half, we save $1? Will I tell them that? Okay, so what do you want to add? And we went through this conversation because, to me, this is the reality of the totality of it all. And the beauty of what I've seen in ITS at the moment is they want to be a part of the totality, not an owner of it, a part of it, a service provider, an advisor, and in Daniel's words, an enabler. And they want to engage right from the get-go the community in how to take this forward. Does it get any better than that? I don't think it does. So, thank you, Daniel. Over to you, friends, for your conversation. I find it unique that in the digital environment you are encouraged to put up sticky notes, but I love the old-fashioned ways. Thanks very much, and thank you, Daniel.